was just trying to think of what we should talk about during this podcast. Any ideas?
No, I can't think of a thing.
There's some song that's been stuck in my head.
What's it about?
It'll come to me in a minute. What about forgiveness? That's one of your favorite subjects.
That is one of my favorite subjects.
That's a super cheesy beginning, but I like it.
I hope they can hear the music. Otherwise, it's really, really cheesy and bad.
It was Forgiveness by Don Henley. If you heard some noise in the background, which I know you did, but it's a good. I think we were allowed to play that from our phone at the beginning of our podcast without cashing in or getting sued for digital rights infringement, aren't we?
I don't know. We really didn't get that. I didn't do any research on that. I'm hoping. I mean, it was just a short clip, and we mentioned the artist's name, and
we're getting to be super famous, though.
It's not like we're getting paid for this, so I can't imagine that.
Don Henley might want a slice of the not so perfect couple profits.
The negative profits. Well, maybe he could give us money.
maybe he needs a tax write-off. He's like, I want in on those losses.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
So let's talk about forgiveness.
Okay. It's a big word.
When's the last time or like the most important time you've had to forgive somebody?
5 minutes ago. 3 minutes ago, you were annoyed at me and I had to forgive you for it.
Did you forgive me? I didn't think so. So just as we were trying to set this up and we wanted to play that song at the beginning, we tried like 4 times to get it right and it wasn't working.
The only video out there wants to like drop a bunch of sound bites from a movie with starring Kevin Kline and some kid I couldn't recognize, but
I think that's the movie of that book that I read about the kid that's the meth addict.
It could be.
It's pretty recent.
No, that's not I don't think that's the one you're thinking of. The Beautiful Boy one.
Yeah, Beautiful Boy. No, that's not it.
I don't think so. It's a much older movie.
Oh, it's got kind of
Kevin Kline looks really young in that.
Well, that's a good point. He did look pretty young.
Anyway.
And that's a pretty old song.
If any of our readers or listeners or not listeners or not readers, no, just drop a comment. Tell us, because I'm not searching for it. I'm not.
Yeah.
Anywho,
not right now.
Forgiveness. It's a big word.
So you didn't forgive me, but
I was too busy owning it. Like, you're really uptight and it's my fault, but it's not my fault.
Okay.
So I wasn't quite done owning it yet. Once I get finished owning something, then I can forgive you a lot easier because it's not about me.
And when you say you're owning it, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like
taking it personally? Like I want to be
like I'm reprimanding you specifically because things are annoying?
When you get annoyed, you get short, and it's like it's directed at me, and so I take it that way. But it's like I'm a cause of your annoyance. That's what it feels. That's when I'm owning it.
Okay. Well, and I mean, for me, in the moment, probably I'm thinking you are part of the cause also, right?
But I'm now that I've forgiven you, I wasn't really. You just were annoyed.
Yeah. And I think that's an interesting thing to, have some introspection about is when I am annoyed.
I can tell you what set you off and got you annoyed. It was stress.
About what? Why am I? I'm hot in here in the RV and it's nighttime. And
you just found out you lost a week on your deadline. And that immediately set you off.
I didn't think about that.
You didn't even register it, but I knew what it was about. But I was busy owning it until just now.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That did set me off a little bit like shit.
That's when all patience was lost.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Told you we should have done this topless. Would have been way more relaxed.
I'm not sure being topless makes me feel more relaxed. I mean,
you're naked in front of a whole room full of people this weekend.
I know, and I was not relaxed. I was so tense when he was beating the shit out of me with those branches anyway, but
Russian spa.
Yeah, if you ever have a chance to go to a Russian spa,
There's a clothing optional one in San Francisco that we went to with some friends, and it was interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
I'd probably go back just because it was so relaxing after
It
the
was
whole deal.
relaxing after the whole deal, but like being beat with branches,
Yeah.
naked, laying down in a sauna where there's just other people just in the sauna hanging out.
Yeah.
Front and back. And then my little guy wouldn't give me my towel, so I had to walk around without any clothes on at the spa.
Speaking of little guys, you should have seen me when I got out of the cold pool.
Yep. I didn't personally
I was in
see
full
it.
hibernation, and I had to do the walk of shame back to the bench and sit down and have the guy do the thing on your back.
Yeah, I had that done too, where he also wouldn't give me a towel, so all my parts were jiggling in front of everyone.
Anyway, speaking about forgiveness, I forgave my wiener for not showing
During the
up
turtle show.
not showing up and embarrassing the shit out of me. So
That's good.
I don't think it's. You just want to yell out at the top of your lungs, "I'm a grower, not a shower." All right.
We digress from
severely
forgiveness to Russian spas, and probably because forgiveness is a hard topic.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I realized about forgiveness that was one of the most important things that I learned about it is that it isn't, you don't give that gift to someone for them. So like when you're forgiving me, you're not really trying to forgive me because I'm not even asking for forgiveness, right?
Or you don't know that you need forgiveness because you're not maybe ready to. You may not know. Well, there's been instances in our lives and with you and I, as well as close family members, where they just have no idea what they've done. So you're never going to get a sorry. You're never going to get somebody to apologize to you at the level you feel like you need to be apologized to when they don't know what they've done. It just isn't coming. So when you feel hurt or disappointed or upset by somebody and you really could use an I'm sorry or somebody owning their stuff, but whether they may not have even been present when they did the slight or whatever it was that was happening, and so they don't know. I mean, I guarantee you I've pissed people off before because I just absolutely wasn't paying attention to what I was doing in the moment, and I have no recollection of it at all.
Yeah, and so it's hard to get someone to apologize when you think you deserve an apology, right?
Mm-hmm. Or when you don't necessarily have the opportunity to share how you're feeling. That's how we get through it a lot of the time. You're like, you just said something right there that hurt my feelings, and then you give somebody the chance to apologize or the chance to say, God, I wasn't thinking at all when I said that. In fact, I was thinking about boobs or something.
Yeah, which is most of the time for you,
Yeah,
I think. But I think
I did find out I wasn't breastfed as a kid, though, so I think there's something to that.
what's that called? It's like a boob, like an oral fixation. I don't know.
Oral or squeeze fixation, whichever.
We digress yet again.
Sorry. It's way easier to crack jokes and talk about serious shit.
That's true. And it's probably easier for the listener to listen to it as we go in like very small stints and and then make another joke and then kind of try to come back to what we're talking about.
We don't have to spend a ton of time on this because the message is very, very, very clear that we want to deliver, and that is that forgiveness is absolutely for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not for. I guess there's people out there that are seeking forgiveness, so I shouldn't say that, but those people are.
Well, let's talk about this though, because it's an interesting thing to talk about the people seeking forgiveness.
Okay.
Seeking forgiveness. Why do you seek forgiveness? You seek forgiveness because you feel that you've wronged someone. But I still think the forgiveness is as much or more for the person who did the wrong as it is for the person who wants the or needs the apology.
No, I agree 100%. I'm just saying that there are people that we've met actually, like we know a guy who Will Smith, or not Will Smith, Will Little.
Like, we met Will Smith. I feel like I would have remembered that.
Our friend Will Little, when he was young, he committed murder and he went to jail for a long time. And he sought out the brother of his victim and asked for forgiveness.
Yeah. And I'm sure well, it's interesting with something as big as that. They probably feel like an apology is not enough. You know?
In that instance, so the person who was being asked for forgiveness didn't know that he wanted it. In fact, he is, according to his story, which he's got a book and everything out there that he wrote about the whole thing called I'll put me on the spot here. It's called,
yeah, I can't remember what it's called either.
Little.
Hang on, I'm going to Google it while you finish telling the story.
Okay. Yeah, because if we're gonna drop names, we got to at least give you the deets. Anyway, the guy didn't know that he wanted, or that he was seeking seeking forgiveness from Will, in other words. So
he didn't know he wanted forgiveness from Will?
No. See, Will was seeking forgiveness from him. He didn't know that he needed to.
He didn't know he needed it. He wanted an apology.
Right. As far as he was concerned, when Will got out, he was going to put a hit on him or something. You know what I mean? That he lost his brother because of the incident. And but when face to face with Will, who's asking for forgiveness, he actually gave it to him and accepted him. And they actually became friends, and they're both doing a lot of good now, telling that story and going out into neighborhoods. But if I'm screwing this up, please read his book. It's not a long one, but it's a great story. But in that instance, one of the things I remember Will saying is that he felt like there was just this huge weight lifted off of him when he forgave Will. And so even though he didn't know that he wanted to forgive anybody, when he did it like lifted a massive weight off of him. And it just illustrates our point even more, which is that forgiveness is for yourself. So when you forgive somebody, that weight lifts. Because I mean, I've been in business relationships with people where I've been screwed out of a lot of money, and I've been lied to, been embezzled from. Yeah, and I know there's a theme here about bad business partners, but and I could go down rabbit holes for an entire day, thinking, God, I hope that guy gets what's coming to him, and karma catches up to him, and all this stuff. And sometimes searching on the web trying to find out what they're doing now, because I had a guy steal my whole entire resume and put it on his own page, his stuff that he'd done and gotten jobs with it. And I was just like, I want to call and tell on his boss. And but when you forgive somebody, it's just that negativity goes away, that weight goes away, that rabbit holing, all of it. Because just thinking about it, I mean, used to get me just angry. I could feel my heart starting to beat more. I guess I guarantee it changed my blood pressure significantly. But that doesn't happen as much anymore. And I have to remember sometimes, like, that I did forgive those guys. If I ever catch myself feeling that way again, I'm like, oh yeah. So why am I even thinking about it? I move on.
Okay, I'm still searching. But he has a movie out. I'm not sure if the book is named the same thing. Maybe you'll know. But it's called Behind the Bullet.
No, that's the movie.
Okay, well, he has a movie out too. And I think that's based, at least in part, about him.
Yeah. It is. Well, no, but he's in a documentary. That's a documentary.
Yeah.
So he's featured in that documentary, but
that's what I said. It's in part about him.
Yeah. So anyway, why don't you talk a little bit about forgiveness?
Yeah. So his name's Will Lateef Little, and he's an amazing human. He also writes a bunch of poetry that's just spectacular. It just gets right down to the core of things so beautifully. Yeah, for me, forgiveness, I really wanted someone to apologize to me. And I had some situations with some family members, and I really felt wronged, and I really wanted an apology. And the apology, it was, they weren't coming out of the woodwork to apologize to me. And I figured out by learning about forgiveness that whether they apologize or not, I still I can still choose to forgive them whether they apologize or not. And again, that was not for them necessarily, but for me, because when you're holding on to those bad feelings about someone and feeling wronged and feeling like someone, did something to you that was so hurtful and not thoughtful, and that's heavy. And as soon as I truly forgave them, and don't get me wrong, like this was a process. I for probably months wrote down all the things that made me feel bad about the situation, and then I'd burn it. And it was something that I learned from Janai Lane. She's a spiritual teacher, and she has a book called Spirit Led Instead, and she has a whole bunch of tools in there that came from her spiritual life and teachings, but are just good practical tools for letting go of your shit, which I think we all carry quite a bit of it around. So that was a great tool for me to learn how to forgive for good. And man, it was powerful when I did finally forgive. And then I was the one to reach out to them and, try to rekindle those relationships that were broken, and never look back, didn't need the apology because they were already forgiven. And again, that was probably more for me than it was for them.
True.
But it ended up being great for all of us. So now when I get pissed off about something, I try to forgive as quickly as I can. Not just them, but you always have your part in whatever bad thing goes down. There's also this other thing about forgiving yourself. So when you've done something shitty to someone, saying, God, that was awful that I did that. But giving yourself the grace of saying, I forgive myself. I'm human. I make mistakes. It's okay that I make mistakes.
It's true.
And I think it's much harder to forgive yourself for things that you feel like you've done wrong or you realize were wrong than it is to forgive other people sometimes.
I agree. Will's book's called Inner City Youth, ICY.
Okay.
So
Inner City Youth.
anyway,
Go buy it.
it's a good book. It's a good read. That's why I hate iPhones, by the way. I had to go to Google to find it. I found it on the second post in Google. I don't know what you were searching in.
I was looking in Facebook.
Facebook. It's evil.
I feel like you're trying to say I did it wrong.
No, not at all, honey. Your iPhone sucks. That's all I was trying to say. It's not even your fault.
Because I couldn't
You have an iPhone.
searching in Google. What does that have to do with having an iPhone?
I don't know.
Nothing.
Because I couldn't figure out how to work it.
That's my phone. That's not my phone's fault either, honey.
Okay.
I think forgiveness is hard.
It's super hard, and you have to keep reminding yourself of who it's for. That's the big thing, and it is for you.
It is for you to keep your heart light and open for love.
Yeah. And when your heart's light and open, it's not heavy and closed.
That was very profound, dear.
Everybody write that down. I'm going to pause for a minute. Anyway, that was all we wanted to talk about today. It was really mostly about forgiveness. We slipped a few other gems in there, of course.
And if there's somebody that you feel should apologize to you, forgive them now without the apology that may or may not ever come.
They may have no idea. In fact, I can almost guarantee you that they don't have any idea of the severity of it, because they may know that they pissed you off and they're like, I don't know what I did. But you'd be like, you know exactly what they did.
How do you think this applies to marriage, Patty?
Well,
Because we're kind of talking about big wrongs, but like in our day-to-day lives, you say things that like seem kind of shitty, or maybe I say something and I can tell it rubs you the wrong way. And
yeah. So, well, it kind of dovetails in with the don't own it part. So it helps me because when I catch myself pouting or quote unquote owning shit, because that's what you're pouting about. You're pouting because you feel like somebody was mean to you and you're real sad. And
well, that's okay to feel like that.
yeah, but to hang on to it for like a day or whatever, or a significant amount of time is not living in the moment. It's not being present. So
And
if
hanging on to it in general is not
yeah,
healthy.
yeah. So it helps me because it's almost adds an extra step to getting over it a little quicker in that when I'm feeling pouty, like, oh, Sam was just real mean to me, and no, I'm just not even going to talk to her. Um, I'm owning the behavior. I'm not communicating. And if I sometimes do communicate and it's not the right time and it doesn't go over well, then that's when the forgiveness part kicks in. It's like, okay, well, I'm probably not going to get her to um, do or say what I want right now, but I forgive her. She's probably just upset because, like,
It's interesting how you feel like you have to tell yourself a story in order to justify the forgiveness. Like, I forgive her, and it's probably, she's probably just, and I don't know if I'm just making an observation. I don't know if that's good or bad. It's just it's an interesting thing. And I was just trying to think, if I do that.
you do that, you do that to me. In other words, if I'm bitching about somebody else, then you give me like a counterpoint that might be some another view I haven't ever thought of. So I'm just trying to do that for myself. I'm like, yeah, quit focusing on this. It could be something completely, you know what I mean? So I give myself easy outs.
There's I think it's actually in Crucial Conversations, and then it was mentioned in another book I've been reading, called Conversations with God, which I'm enjoying. And that's this idea that nobody ever does things on purpose, intentionally, that they think are really bad. That somehow in their mind, what they've done is justified. We don't purposely go do awful things to be awful. None of us think of ourselves as awful people. And so we just go out and do awful things. And so that's an interesting idea when you apply it to somebody who you think has wronged you, whether you can figure out what their justification is or not. The chances are that if you could step inside them and figure out and have lived their lives, that you might have made the same decision, and that you could see how they could come to this decision to do or say whatever they did or said that was hurtful. That gives you some that gives you some space for forgiveness, and without telling a specific story, but just saying,
there's people used to say it all the time. Well, I'm sure they had their reasons, right? And that is the justification. I guarantee you every bad thing was justified somehow, even if they knew it was going to be bad. They're, it's going to be bad, but you give yourself some kind of a justification to do it anyway. And we may never know what that justification is, was, or agree with it, but it's there. I guarantee it's there every time.
Yeah.
So, wow.
And I was also watching a film where they were talking to convicts. I think it's a fictional film, but it's a fictional film, but it is based on a true story. They're talking to convicts about the time that they took to make the decision to enact their crime. And a lot of these people were, murderer. Most of them were murderers, and it was like a split second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah,
just a complete reactionary, not being able to process an emotion, and instead just lashing out and making a horrible, life-altering decision.
It was legal.
In split seconds.
I think it's still legal in a ton of places where crimes of passion committed by men, not women, are justified. You come home, you find your wife sleeping with another guy, and you kill them both. There's been people that have been getting away with that all over the world for a long, long time because they've justified it as a crime of passion, the split second snap.
Yep, that's the truth. And I think it actually is punishable for women. It's just that women, we don't commit that many of those kinds of crimes.
No, but we read a lot because we've been doing, we dive into inequity all the time because I'm a big proponent of the rise of the feminine, and as is Sam, and equality and all that kind of jazz. And but I know I read that somewhere where like crimes of passion were considered were legal or whatever for men, but not women. I'll have to look it up now. I'm not gonna though.
You want to hear something else I read that's really interesting about that idea of equality and egalitarian kind of situations?
You read that I'm going to tell you because I get excited when I was listening. You're you're going to tell me that polygamy.
Nope.
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, that was another fun fact. Polygamy has been legal throughout the course of time, at various times in various places, and it still is in many countries. But polyandry never has been, not even once. Oh, except for some.
There's one small tiny tribe in, I want to say somewhere near Tibet, maybe.
But I'll bet you the Tibetan law doesn't have it on the books as being legal.
It is not. It's completely illegal in every country in the world.
Anyway,
mine was gonna hit a little closer to home. So I was reading these studies about sex, because I'm still ramping up on finishing up the edits on the book, the Big Your Love book, that will come out under a different name with not just he said, she said, like our book is written, but the they say, because all the things that we talked about in our book are actually based up, are backed up by scientific research that we didn't know about until we started doing the research. So it's super interesting. But this one study that I was looking at just this week was talking about desire discrepancies, which you and I talk about a lot. I historically had a lower libido than you did, and that caused a lot of problems in our marriage. So there was a group of people who did a huge study on this idea of desire discrepancies and which times of life it happens more and who doesn't want it more and all these things. And something interesting that came out of that, and it was all done over time and lots of interviews with these couples over time. So one of the interesting things that came out of that study was the realization that during the time when couples have children and two working parents, that desire discrepancy was a huge problem. And it was a huge problem for working moms. They always have the lower libido, but they may or may not actually have the lower libido. What studies show is that men, even today, do considerably less housework and less child care and cooking of the meals than women. You have that shocked look on your face, but this is something that definitely happened in our marriage.
Oh, let's talk about forgiveness.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But so they were showing that it was like, they call it the third shift. So, both partners are getting up in the morning, both partners are going to work, and they're working all day. They get home, maybe they both participate in, getting the kids to bed or whatever, but the wife still has cooked the meal, done the dishes, has the laundry to do. So she has all this housework that the man, it's funny too, is that this study showed that the man, it's not that he isn't willing to do it. He just most of the time doesn't notice that it needs to be done, which is your excuse, right? Or you're like, I don't care that much about how a clean house, or I don't notice that it's dirty.
Or the one chore that a lot of men I know, including myself, will pick up right away is like, oh, I'll cook the dinner then. Of course, that's the only
fun part.
That's the only one that gets any kudos. The rest of it's like, yeah, Dad, thanks for making that. And they're like, Mom, thanks for folding my laundry. Nobody's ever said that.
Thanks for cleaning my toilet, Mom. That's awesome. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, if you're listening to this and you're two working parents and you're having this problem where she doesn't want to have sex with you, it's because she's too fucking tired. If she's doing most of the housework, taking care of the kids, having the full-time job, she's busy and she's just exhausted and she's too tired to have a libido. That's what this study said, and that's actually, that happened in our marriage.
Yep. So you got one shot in the morning. That's it. Is that your message?
No, my message is help out around the house more, and don't do it as a tit for a tat. That's funny, tit for tat.
I like tits.
I know.
You can have a tat.
Not like a currency, but think, if she wasn't so tired all the time because she's doing most of the housework or the child rearing or the cooking and the cleaning, she'd have more energy for sex. Another option, which actually worked out really great for us, is hire a housekeeper. Go out for a few meals, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Then I didn't feel responsible for it. We went off on a big tangent, but know that I forgive you every day for not doing more work around the house.
I know. And the beauty is right now we're living at my mom's house, and now she does it.
She does not do our laundry. She does not do the dishes usually, and most of the time I'm cooking, so not really. She did make dinner tonight, and it was awesome. She makes dinner a few nights a week, but
yeah,
I still clean our room and our bathroom and do our laundry, and I have a full-time job too. So
yeah, and in 1 month we hopefully are well, we'll have more stuff to do. Sorry, cut that whole last blurb out. Hopefully it gets edited because I just started rambling.
I think we're tired. We're doing it 9:00 at night. We usually do these in the mornings or earlier in the day.
It's true.
All right, we're going to shut up now.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything about forgiveness?
Yeah, I'm super good at it.
Are you? My whole challenge with forgiveness is trying to get to it faster.
Yeah, that is true. I'm not perfect at anything, including the things that I talk about all the time that I've learned.
Me either. Yeah, me either.
But I do always try to get better at them. So.
Me too, and you should too. Forgiveness is a huge one. If you can master that, man, all your relationships will be better.
It's true.
All right. Lots of love to everybody, and good luck with your forgiveness endeavors. Over and out.
Go get them. Make the world a better place.
Yeah.